What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, back with some more boxing. Now, I want to spend some time talking about the light heavyweight division. And this is a division really that has morphed over the last couple of years. We're starting to see some new talent emerge, some people making noise. Um, Other fighters from the past have still remained a force, people like Bernard Hopkins. And there's some action packed fights that can be made at light heavyweight. Um, I'm really looking forward to what unfolds in the future. This is every year in boxing, you see a certain division who has all the talent. And another great thing about boxing divisions are some of them are so close in actual pounds where once a certain division is cleaned out, like 140, there's also possible matchups bringing someone up from 140 to 147. 140 was a hot division. Now a lot of the talent has pondered the idea of moving up. People like Amir Khan, Danny Garcia might move up in a couple of rounds, etc. Maidanas and Devin Alexander over the last couple of years moved up. Timothy Bradley. So with the light heavyweight division, you also have that possibility. Andre Ward has really beat everyone at 168. So who is there left to fight at 168? I don't want to see him rematch Bika. I don't think Bika is improved enough to the point where he will beat Andre Ward, especially since Andre Ward had the shoulder rehab. Andre Ward already beat Chad Dawson, even though Chad Dawson came down in weight. It's still a win. Plus, Chad Dawson got knocked out by Adonis Stevenson, so that fight doesn't really make much sense in terms of a rematch. Um, Chad Dawson has to really rebuild himself back up after two back-to-back crushing like TKO KO losses. Andre Ward just recently dominated Edwin Rodriguez, who was undefeated at the time. So you could have Andre Ward move up. Chad Dawson, um, you never know in the sport of boxing. Maybe he can avenge his loss to either fighter, Andre Ward or Stevenson. Because in the Adonis Stevenson Chad Dawson fight, we weren't really able to tell much. He got blasted. It was a first round KO. So we never really seen what Chad Dawson had to offer. And in the sport of boxing, that could happen. If you get knocked out, if you get a clean punch connected on your chin, I mean, you're going to go down. And we never really were able to see what Chad Dawson's game plan was, what he would look like in that fight. So that could be an interesting rematch if he could stick with one trainer and get his shit together and just come back really focused and driven. The possibility of Andre Ward moving up. Edwin Rodriguez showed that he at least has the tenacity to be in there with a pound for pound, someone who's rated number 2 on the pound for pound list, and go the distance with him. Even though he was thoroughly outboxed, had problems making weight, so he said that he's going to move from 168, which makes that intriguing because Edwin Rodriguez, whether you like him or hate him, he could still give some fighters problems or still be a stern competition for some of the fighters. Then you have the alien Bernard Hopkins, who is 1,000 years old and he's still making noise. Murat fight, he showed that he can be exciting if he chooses to engage and fight a toe to toe. One thing I will say is Bernard Hopkins is great. He's an all time great future Hall of Famer. Love Bernard Hopkins. B Hop is the man. But there's no way he could fight the type of fight that he fought against Murat, against some of these younger and hungry champions, people like Kovalev's and the Stevenson. I just don't see that. But the Stevenson versus B Hop is a more intriguing match. I don't know how he'd fare against Kovalev because Kovalev is a tough Russian and he has power. I don't know how Bernard Hopkins at this age would fare against somebody like that. It would be very intriguing to see if he could stay out of harm's way against a guy like Kovalev, who has power in both hands. And I just know he couldn't fight the Murat type of fight against Kovalev. That wouldn't be a good look for him at all. Bernard Hopkins is doing age-defying things. However, it's easier to do it against a Murat who's vastly untested or Tavoris Cloud who is very one-dimensional in his approach. You know he's going to come straight forward, come straight at you, has to reset, and he gets frustrated. He kind of loses mental focus. So I don't know if he would have the same luck with the Kovalev. Stevenson, I think Stevenson is he's the man at light heavyweight. He has belts. Stevenson shows that he could box. He showed that in the Tavoris Cloud fight. He showed some deceptive speed in that fight as well. He showed patience. He got a little bit frustrated in his last performance against Tony Bellew, and he showed that he could still get the power, still get the job done, and still keep his power late. So Kovalev versus Stevenson is the fight that I really, really, truly want to see, because you have two power punchers with more than just a power punching pedigree. You have Kovalev, who has an extensive amateur background, not to mention he's Russian. Looks like he has a chin. He has momentum. Stevenson has momentum. They were on the same fight card. It's the fight that needs to happen, people. I will say Stevenson needs to work on his right hand to beat a guy like Kovalev, because Kovalev, he was walking through Ishmael Salik's punches, and Salik is not the lightest puncher. He's not like a Paulie Malignaggi, and he didn't look like he was phased by that. And you can't be a one-handed fighter and beat guys like Bernard Hopkins, or just beat someone who's tough and aggressive and has power themselves like a Kovalev with that amateur experience. So Stevenson, I would say he needs to stay at it. They say he learns really fast in the gym. So Stevenson, to me, he just needs to work on not falling in love with that left hook. Kind of something that Nonito Donaire over the years has, to me, gotten complacent with. The left hook is his money punch. We know that. And if I, as a fan, know that, then these opponents and trainers know that. So they can formulate a game plan to stay away from your left hand. And if you are banking on that left hand landing, there's ways to combat that. So you really have to break that habit. A lot of fighters getting into the habit where if they have a predominant punch, they fall in love with it, and that's their go-to punch. And we all know in the sport of boxing, the punches that hurt most are the punches you don't see coming. So if over the years you fall in love with your left hook, for example, like Nonito Donaire, that's the punch people are going to be looking for. They're going to be building their defense around that. Similar to any sport that offers strategy. If I know I'm playing against Tim Tebow when he was with the Broncos and he's running every play, we're going to start building our defense to combat that, to deter you from running, because we know the quarterback's going to run on every single play, and it's no different with the fight game. If they see that you're falling in love, this is your go-to money punch, then that's what they're going to start trying to avoid. So Stevenson, I think he just needs to mix up his punches. His corner was kind of saying that in the Bellew fight. They were like, change up your rhythm, and you're going to have to against a guy like a Bernard Hopkins or a guy like Kovalev. They're not going to fall for the same 1-2, whereas Tony Bellew or somebody else might. Light heavyweight division, like I said, is just shaping up. You also have Carl Froch, who had a shaky performance against Groves, but he did get the job done. I thought it was premature. There's always that fight that could be made. Carl Froch, Nathan Cleverly's trying to rebuild his career. So just some great fights at light heavyweight, and I'm impressed with the division, how it's shaping up. Like I said, in boxing, every year you have a division that just really stands out. The heavyweight division's been pretty dead for a minute. I see sparks of it improving. At one point they were saying Seth Mitchell is the dude. That's not the case. Now you have other fighters who are rebuilding their careers, like the Chris Areolas. The Klitschko's are talking about going off into politics, or at least one of them. Deontay Wilder's making noise up there. Tyson Fury's starting to make some noise up there, and does a lot of self-promotion and trash talking. So I'm anxious for the sport of boxing just to see what other divisions are going to come into fruition and give us these exciting fights. Right now, I think it's moved beyond the 140 division, because we've already seen the best matchups at 140. We've seen Zab Judah versus Danny Garcia. We've seen Lucas Matisse versus Lamont Peterson. Lucas Matisse versus Danny Garcia. We've seen these exciting matchups. Amir Khan's versus Lamont Peterson. Now that the dust is settled, it looks like the light heavyweight is the division that is going to be all eyes on that division. And like I said, anytime in boxing, you got to look at divisions as you have to look not only at that division, but the division underneath it. What talent could possibly move up? And at the division below it, you have someone who's in the top 3 pound for pound list, Andre Ward, who's really cleaned out 168. So him moving up is not out of the question. Plus, I believe he fought light heavyweight in the Olympics. So I'm really looking forward to it. My top fight, Kovalev versus Adonis Stevenson. Let me know what you guys think of the light heavyweight division. Leave a comment. What matches do you want to see? Does Bernard Hopkins still have it to beat some of these emerging superstars? Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. As always, hate, comment, or subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing off.